The maintenance bay of Space Station Omega-7 was quiet, except for the hum of machines and the occasional spark from welding tools. Jake Morrison wiped the grease from his hands and looked at the broken engine core in front of him. It was from an old human cargo ship, and the captain could not afford new parts, so Jake would have to make it work somehow. He always did. He had been working on the station for 3 years now. It was not a glamorous job, but it paid well enough, and he liked the peace of working with machines. They were simple and honest, unlike people. When something was broken, you fixed it. When it worked, it worked. No lies, no betrayal, no complications. The station was a meeting point between human space and the elf territories. It was one of the few places where both species mixed, though they rarely talked to each other. Humans stayed in the lower levels where things were practical and simple. Elves preferred the upper decks with their gardens and crystal halls. Most elves looked at humans like they were clever animals, interesting but not quite equal. Jake did not mind. He had seen enough of war and politics during his time in the human fleet. He just wanted to fix things and be left alone. But that changed the day. She walked into his workshop. The door slid open and Jake looked up from his work, expecting to see another human customer. Instead, an elf woman stood in the doorway. She was different from the other elves he had seen on the station. Her silver hair fell to her waist like liquid moonlight, and her eyes were purple, like deep space nebulas. She wore simple clothes, not the elaborate robes most elves preferred. But what really caught his attention were the creatures wrapped around her shoulders. 3 small dragons, each no bigger than a cat, rested against her neck. Their scales shifted colors from blue to green to gold as they breathed. They looked like living jewels. Jake had heard stories about elf dragons, but he had never seen one up. Close humans were not usually allowed near them. The dragons were sacred to the elves, and they said humans were too crude to understand such magical creatures. "Can I help you?" Jake asked, putting down his tools. He noticed his voice came out rougher than intended. The elf woman stepped into the workshop, and the dragons lifted their heads to look around. Their eyes were too intelligent, too aware. They studied Jake like they were reading his soul. One of them made a soft, chirping sound that almost sounded like laughter. "My ship has a damaged stabilizer," the elf woman said. Her voice was like music, but there was something playful in it too. "The elf mechanics say it will take weeks to get the right parts, but I heard there was a human here who could fix anything." Jake stood up and wiped his hands again, suddenly aware of how dirty his coveralls were. "That would be me, Jake Morrison. But elf technology is different from human stuff. I might not be able to help." She smiled, and the workshop seemed brighter. "My name is Luna, and these are my companions." She gestured to the dragons. "This one is Star Whisper. The blue one is Cosmos, and the golden one is Nebula. They wanted to meet you." "The dragons wanted to meet me?" Jake asked, confused. Luna walked closer, and Jake caught the scent of something like flowers mixed with ozone. "Star Whisper has been watching you for weeks. Every time we pass by, he insists on stopping. He says you have an interesting light." Jake did not know what to say to that. Elves talked about seeing auras and energy fields, but he had always thought it was just mystical nonsense. He was a mechanic, not a philosopher. He fixed things with his hands, not with magic. "I can look at your stabilizer," he said finally, "but I make no promises. Elf tech uses crystal harmonics, and I only know basic frequencies." Luna tilted her head and studied him. "You know about crystal harmonics. Most humans do not bother to learn." Jake shrugged. "I fix things for everyone on this station. Had to learn a bit." Of everything, he did not mention the months he had spent studying elf engineering manuals, trying to understand their technology. It fascinated him, even if he would never admit it. They walked to the docking bay where Luna's ship waited. It was small and elegant, with flowing lines that looked more grown than built. The hull seemed to shift between silver and white, depending on the angle. Jake had never seen anything like it up close. The stabilizer was indeed damaged. A crystal the size of his fist had a crack running through it. In human ships, this would be catastrophic, but elf technology was different. Their crystals could heal if given the right encouragement. Jake opened his toolkit and pulled out a harmonic tuner. It was a device He had modified himself, combining human and elf techniques. He had never tested it on a real elf crystal before. Luna watched with interest as he worked. The dragons had moved from her shoulders and were now exploring the workshop Cosmos had found, a box of spare parts, and was sorting them by size. Nebula was examining the ceiling lights, and Star Whisper sat next to Jake, watching every move he made. "You are different from other humans," Luna said after a while. Jake glanced up at her. "How so you? Do not fear us or worship us. You just see us as people with broken ships, is there?" "Another way to see you?" Jake asked. Focusing on the crystal, Luna laughed, and it sounded like bells. "Most humans either think we are gods or demons, depending on their history with my people. They forget we are just travelers like them, only we have been traveling longer." The harmonic tuner hummed as Jake adjusted the frequency. He could feel the crystal responding like it was waking up from sleep. The crack was still there, but it was smaller now. "This might actually work your dragons," Jake said as he worked. "Are they really thousands of years old like the stories say?" Star Whisper made a sound that was definitely laughter this time. Luna smiled. "They are old, enough to remember when humans first reached for the stars. They watched your species take its first steps into space. They find you fascinating." Why, Jake asked, genuinely curious. "Because you do the impossible," Luna said. "You live such short lives compared to us, yet you build and create and dream as if you will live forever. You fail and get up and try again. You should have destroyed yourselves a dozen times over, but somehow you survive and grow stronger. That is why Star Whisper wanted to meet you. He sees that same spirit in you." Jake felt his face grow warm. He was not used to compliments, especially from elves. The crystal under his hands pulsed with warm light, and the crack sealed completely. The stabilizer was fixed. "There," Jake said, stepping back. "Good as new. Maybe better." The harmonic frequency is actually more stable now than the original setting. Luna examined his work, and her eyes widened. "You improved it." How Jake rubbed the back of his neck. Embarrassed, "I noticed the frequency pattern was slightly off, probably a manufacturing flaw. I just adjusted it to match the mathematical sequence better." She stared at him for a long moment. "You understand the mathematics behind crystal harmonics?" "A little," Jake admitted. Luna visited Jake's workshop every day after that. She would bring her dragons and sit on a crate while he worked on various repairs. The dragons had made themselves at home. Cosmos had claimed a shelf where he organized Jake's tools by size and function. Nebula liked to perch on the highest point she could find, usually the ventilation pipes. Star Whisper always stayed close to Jake, watching him work with those ancient eyes. Other humans on the station started to notice. Some whispered that Jake had been enchanted by elf magic. Others said he was a traitor to his own kind for being so friendly with the enemy. But Jake did not care. He had found something he had not realized he was missing, which was genuine companionship. Luna told him stories about the places she had been. She had visited worlds where the oceans were made of liquid methane, and life swam through clouds. She had seen the birth of stars and the death of galaxies. She had walked on planets where time moved differently, where a day lasted a human lifetime. In return, Jake told her about growing up on Mars Colony 5, about learning to fix things because new supplies were always months away. He told her about joining the fleet not for glory but because he wanted to see the stars. He even told her about the Battle of Rigel Prime, where he had chosen to save a ship full of civilians instead of following orders. It had ended his military career, but he had never regretted it. One day, Luna arrived at the workshop with a serious expression. "Jake, something is happening. My father is coming here." Jake felt his stomach drop. Luna had mentioned her father before. Lord Kai was not just any elf warrior. He was the supreme commander of the Elf Defense Force. He had fought in wars that were already legends. He was also known for his deep distrust of humans. "Why is he coming?" Jake asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "Officially, he is here for a diplomatic meeting," Luna said. "But really, he is coming for me. He wants me to return home to take my place in the royal court." He thinks I waste my time traveling and studying other species. Jake felt a strange pain in his chest at the thought of Luna leaving. When, 3 days, Luna said. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out something wrapped in silver cloth. Jake, I need to tell you something important. About why Star Whisper was really interested in you. She unwrapped the cloth, revealing a crystal, unlike anything Jake had ever seen. It was perfectly clear, but somehow, it contained colors that should not exist. It pulsed with a rhythm like a heartbeat, and when Jake looked at it, he felt like it was looking back. This is one of the sacred crystals of my people, Luna said. There are only 7 in existence. They choose their bearers and grant them abilities beyond normal understanding. The last human who touched one was burned to ash. That was 500 years ago. Jake took a step back. Why are you showing me this? Because Star Whisper believes you are different, Luna said. The dragons can see things we cannot. They see potential futures. They see the threads that connect all living things. And Star Whisper sees something in you that has never been in a human before. What Jake asked, his mouth dry. The ability to bridge our worlds, Luna said. The potential to be something new. Not human, not elf, but something that could unite us. Jake shook his head. I am just a mechanic. I fix things. I am not special. Luna stood and moved closer. You fixed my stabilizer by understanding math that takes elves decades to learn. You treat my dragons with respect without fear or greed. You see me not as an elf, but as a person that is more special than you know. The crystal in her hands pulsed brighter. Luna held it out to him. If you take this, everything will change. You will see the universe as we see it. You will understand things that no human has understood, but you will also be marked, neither fully human nor fully elf. Some will hate you for it. Jake looked at the crystal, then at Luna, then at the 3 dragons who were all watching him intently. Star Whisper chirped softly, and Jake somehow understood it was encouragement. What if I fail? Jake asked. What if I am not what Star Whisper thinks I am? Then you will die, Luna said simply. The crystal does not forgive unworthiness, but I believe in you. And more importantly, Star Whisper believes in you. In all his millennia, he has never been wrong about someone's character. Jake thought about his life on the station. Fixing, things staying in the shadows, avoiding connection. It was safe, but was it living? He thought about Luna leaving, returning to her world and never coming back. He thought about humans and elves, continuing to misunderstand each other. Maybe eventually, going to war again. He also thought about the children he had saved at Rigel Prime. He had known it would end his career, but he had done it anyway because it was right. Sometimes doing the right thing meant taking the biggest risk before he could lose his nerve. Jake reached out and grabbed the crystal. The moment his fingers touched its surface, the world exploded. Fire raced through his veins, but it was not painful. It was transformative. He could suddenly see energy flowing through everything. The walls of the station were not solid, but patterns of molecules dancing in formation. The air itself was alive with currents and eddies of power. But most amazing were the dragons. He could finally see them as they truly were. Not small creatures, but vast beings of pure energy choosing to manifest in tiny forms. Their consciousness stretched across dimensions. Their thoughts were symphonies of light and sound. Star Whisper winked at him, and Jake heard his voice for the first time. Welcome, young bridge builder. We have been waiting so long for you. Jake gasped and nearly dropped the crystal, but it had fused to his palm, becoming part of him. He could feel it rewriting his DNA, adding new sequences that should not be possible. Human and elf, characteristics merging into something unprecedented. Luna caught him as he swayed. You are doing so well, she said. Most who touch it scream for hours. You are already adapting. Jake's vision cleared, and he saw Luna truly for the first time. She was not just beautiful. She was radiant with an inner light that connected to every living thing. He could see the bonds between her and her dragons. Threads of pure love and trust that had been built over centuries. I can see it. Jake whispered. I can. See how everything connects. Yes, Luna said, tears in her eyes. And that is why my father must not know what we have done. At least not yet. He would see this as the ultimate betrayal. His daughter giving a sacred crystal to a human. Jake understood the risk she had taken. This was not just about him. This was about her defying everything her culture believed to take a chance on peace. We have 3 days. Jake said, his mind already working. You said he is coming in 3 days. Luna nodded. Then we have 3 days to figure out how to convince the most powerful elf warrior in the galaxy that a human mechanic deserves to carry one of your sacred crystals. Jake managed a shaky smile. How hard could that be? Star Whisper laughed, a sound like cosmic wine chimes. Oh, young one, you have no idea what you have started. But that is what makes your species so entertaining. You do impossible things because you do not know they are impossible. The next 3 days were the most intense of Jake's life. Luna taught him how to control the crystal's power, how to see without being overwhelmed, how to touch the energy fields without disrupting them. The dragons helped each one, teaching him different aspects of the gift. Cosmos showed him how to organize, the chaos of information flooding his enhanced senses. Nebula taught him to find peace in the storm of power. Star Whisper helped him understand the deeper connections between all living things. But they all knew it might not be enough. Lord Kai's hatred of humans was legendary, and for good reason. Lord Kai arrived on the station like a storm. His ship was not elegant like Luna's, but sharp and dangerous looking. It was black as space itself and seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. When he stepped onto the docking platform, every being in the area felt it, human and elf alike. Jake watched from an observation window as the legendary warrior emerged. He was taller than any elf Jake had seen, with silver armor that flowed like liquid mercury. His hair was the same silver as Luna's, but his eyes were harder, colder. They scanned the crowd, and everyone they touched flinched. Behind him came an honor guard of 12 elf warriors, each one capable of destroying entire battalions. They moved in perfect synchronization, like they shared one mind. Their armor bore the marks of countless battles. Luna stood beside Jake, her hand on his shoulder. She was tense but trying to hide it. The crystal in Jake's chest for it had somehow merged into his body, now pulsed with nervous energy. He will want to see me immediately? Luna said. We have prepared as much as we can. But Jake, you must understand something about my father. He can detect lies, especially from those touched by crystal magic. If he asks you a direct question, you must answer truthfully, even if the truth gets us both killed, Jake asked. Especially then, Luna said. Because lying will definitely get us killed, while the truth might just surprise him enough to make him pause. They made their way to the diplomatic quarters where Lord Kai had demanded a private meeting. Jake had wanted to wear his best clothes, but Luna had told him to come as he was in his work coveralls. If you try to be something you are not, my father will know, she had said. The room was large and circular, with windows looking out at the stars. Lord Kai stood with his back to them, studying the view. When they entered, he did not turn around. Daughter, he said, his voice deep and resonant. You have been away too long. Father. Luna replied with a slight bow. It has only been 1 solar year spent among humans. Lord Kai turned, and his purple eyes immediately locked onto Jake. And this is the pet you have acquired. Jake felt the insult, but did not react. The crystal had given him new awareness, and he could sense Lord Kai's emotions beneath the cold exterior. There was anger, yes, but also fear and, strangely enough, pain. My name is Jake Morrison. Sir, Jake said, standing straight but not bowing. I am not her pet. I am her friend. Lord. Kai moved closer, and Jake realized the elf could probably kill him with a single strike. The warrior circled him slowly like a predator studying prey. A friend. He said the word like it tasted bitter. Tell me, Jake Morrison, what does a human mechanic have to offer? The daughter of the elf royal line. Jake felt Luna tense beside him, but he kept his eyes on Lord Kai. Honesty, respect, and the ability to see her as Luna, not as a title or a symbol. Lord. Kai's eyes narrowed. You speak boldly for someone so fragile. Jake, surprised himself by smiling. Maybe that is what she values, the courage to be fragile but stand anyway. For a moment something flickered in Lord Kai's eyes. It might have been surprise or even approval, but then his expression hardened again. Luna. Why? Have you really brought me here? Lord Kai asked. It was not just to meet your human friend. Luna took a deep breath. Father, things are changing. The darkness from beyond the rim grows stronger. The ancient enemy stirs. Our peoples cannot face it. Divided fairy tales, Lord Kai said dismissively. The darkness is a story to frighten children. No, Father, Luna said firmly. It is real, and it is coming. I have seen the signs, the dragons have felt it, and Jake has seen it. 2. Lord Kai's attention snapped back to Jake. How could a human see what our greatest seers cannot? This was the moment they had prepared for. Jake held out his hand and let the crystal's light shine through his skin. The room filled with soft rainbow colors that should not exist. Lord Kai stepped back, his hand moving to his weapon. Luna moved between them. Father, please let me explain. You gave a sacred crystal to a human lord. Kai's voice was deadly quiet. Do you understand what you have done? You have violated our most sacred laws. You have betrayed your people. I have tried to save them, Luna said, tears in her eyes. The crystals choose their bearers, Father. You know this. The crystal chose Jake. It would have killed him if he was unworthy. Lord Kai drew his energy blade, a weapon of pure light that hummed with lethal power. Then I will correct the crystal's mistake. Jake stepped forward, pushing Luna gently aside. Wait, he said. Lord Kai, I understand your anger. Your people have 7 sacred crystals, and now a human has one that must feel like theft. But may I show you something? You dare to bargain with me. Human. Jake met his eyes steadily. I dare to offer understanding. If after what I show you, you still want to kill me, I will not resist. The room was silent, except for the hum of the energy blade. Star Whisper flew from Luna's shoulder and landed on Jake's. His ancient voice spoke in a language only those touched by crystals could hear. Lord Kai's eyes widened. You brought a star singer here. 3, actually, Jake said as Cosmos and Nebula joined Star Whisper. They have been teaching me, and they want to show you what they have seen. Lord Kai lowered his blade slightly. Star singers do not lie, he said as if reminding himself. But they also do not usually concern themselves with mortal affairs. These are not usual times, Jake said. He closed his eyes and opened his mind, letting the crystal's power flow. The dragons added their strength to his, and suddenly the room was filled with visions. They all saw it together. The darkness, from beyond the rim. It was not just absence of light, but active negation of existence. It consumed everything it touched, not just destroying, but unmaking. Jake showed Lord Kai the vision Star Whisper had shared with him of fleets, both human and elf, being swept away like dust. Then the vision changed. It showed humans and elves fighting together, their technologies merging in ways never before imagined. Human adaptability and elf magic, creating weapons and shields that could hold back the darkness, and at the center of it all were beings like Jake, bridges between the two species, making cooperation possible. The vision faded, and Lord Kai stood frozen, his blade deactivated. The dragons flew back to Luna, who was crying openly. You have seen the true future, Lord Kai said, his voice hollow. One possible future, Jake corrected. The dragons see many paths, but in every path where our species survive, we survive together. Lord Kai walked to the window and stared at the stars. For 1,000 years I have hated humans, he said quietly. They killed my bondmate in the War of Broken Spheres. They destroyed entire elf colonies. They are violent, chaotic creatures who spread across the galaxy like a plague, yes. Jake said, surprising everyone. We are all of those things. We are also brave and creative and capable of growth. We make terrible mistakes, but we learn from them. Sometimes he paused. And we need the wisdom of older races to help us become better. Lord. Kai turned to look at him, You do not deny your species' crimes. How could I? Jake asked. But I also do not deny our potential for redemption. Is that not what the crystals represent? The chance for transformation? Luna stepped forward. Father Jake saved 30,000 elf civilians. At Rigel, Prime Lord Kai's head snapped toward her. What Jake's face burned. He had not known there were elves on that civilian transport. He had just known there were people who needed help. I researched it. Luna continued. The transport he saved against. Direct orders was carrying elf refugees from the border conflicts. He destroyed his military career to save our people without even knowing who they were. Lord Kai studied Jake with new interest. The crystal bearer. Morrison, he said slowly. That was you. You were the human who chose court-martial rather than let civilians die. Jake nodded, not trusting his voice. Lord Kai was quiet for a long moment. Then he did something that shocked everyone in the room. He laughed. It was not a happy sound, but it was genuine. The universe has a sense of irony, he said. The human I wanted to honor for saving our people is the same human I wanted to kill for touching our crystal. He sheathed his energy blade and walked over to Jake, standing close. Jake realized the elf lord was studying him with the same crystal-enhanced vision Jake now possessed. I see it now, Lord Kai said quietly. What the Star Singers see in you. You are not trying to become an elf. You are not trying to make elves human. You are trying to be a bridge. Jake nodded. That is all I want to help our peoples understand each other. Lord. Kai looked at his daughter. You chose well, Luna. Though I wish you had trusted me enough to tell me first. You would have tried to stop me. Luna said. Yes, Lord, Kai admitted. But perhaps that would have been my mistake, not yours. He turned back to Jake. The crystal has accepted you, and the Star Singers have vouched for you. By our laws that makes you family, even if you are human. Jake felt the tension in his chest release. Does that mean you will not kill me? Lord Kai almost smiled. It means I will give you a chance. Prove to me that humans can be trusted with our sacred gifts. Show me that this bridge you want to build can hold the weight of our history. Jake asked by coming with us, Lord Kai said. You will train with our warriors, learn our ways, and when the darkness comes, you will stand with us against it. The elf training grounds were nothing like Jake had imagined. Instead of mystical floating islands or crystal palaces, it was a harsh moon orbiting a dead star. The gravity was twice Earth normal, and the atmosphere was thin enough to make every breath a struggle. This is where we make warriors, Lord Kai said as their ship descended. Your human military trains the body. We train the soul. Jake stood with 20 elf recruits, all of them, centuries younger than Luna, but still older than any human. They looked at him with mixtures of curiosity, disgust, and amazement. He was the first human to ever set foot on their sacred training ground. The first week nearly killed him. The elves moved through the high gravity like it was nothing, while Jake struggled to walk. They practiced combat forms that required perfect balance, and he fell again and again. The other recruits whispered that he was proof humans did not belong here. But Jake got up every time his bones ached and his muscles screamed. But he got up. The crystal helped healing his injuries faster than normal, but it could not make him stronger. That he had to do himself. Luna was not allowed to help him directly, but she visited every evening with the dragons. Star Whisper would curl up next to him and hum songs that eased the pain. Cosmos would arrange the medical supplies in the order Jake would need them. Nebula would fly around the ceiling making patterns that helped Jake meditate. You are doing better than I expected, Lord, Kai said one evening as Jake practiced forms with a training blade. Jake wiped sweat from his eyes. Still falling, he said. Yes, but you fall forward now. Lord Kai observed. In the beginning, you fell backward. That is progress. The elf lord picked up another training blade and stood across from Jake. Show me what you have learned. They sparred slowly. At first Jake knew he could not match Lord Kai's 1,000 years of experience, but the crystal let him see the patterns in his movements. Every fighter had a rhythm, and Jake was good at fixing things that were out of rhythm. Lord Kai increased the speed and Jake struggled to keep up. But then something clicked. The high gravity that had been his enemy became his friend. He stopped fighting against it and started using it. His movements became heavier, harder to stop. Lord Kai nodded approvingly. You learn fast for a human. Jake blocked a strike that would have shattered his arm a week ago. I have good teachers. The other recruits had stopped their own training to watch a human was lasting more than 30 seconds against Lord Kai. It was unprecedented. Then Lord Kai moved at his true speed and Jake was on his back looking at the dark sky. But he was smiling because he had lasted a full minute. Why? Do you smile? Lord Kai asked. You lost. Jake sat up, his whole body aching. Because a month ago, I would have died in the first second. Now I last a minute, in another month. Who knows? Lord Kai helped him stand an action that made the other recruits gasp. The elf lord never helped anyone stand. That night Jake was invited to eat with the senior warriors instead of alone. They did not speak to him much, but they no longer looked at him like he was something disgusting. It was progress. The second month brought new challenges. Jake learned that elf combat was not just physical but mental. The crystal warriors could attack the mind as well as the body. They could project fear, doubt, and pain directly into an opponent's consciousness. Jake's first mental combat session left him curled on the ground screaming. The elf instructor, a female warrior named Sarah, stood over him. Disappointed, humans cannot handle mental warfare, she announced. Your minds are too chaotic, too undefended. Jake struggled to his feet, blood running from his nose. Again, he said. Sarah raised an eyebrow. You want me to attack your mind again? Jake nodded. He had faced his fears before in real combat when lives were on the line. This was just training. He could handle training. Second attack was worse, but Jake stayed on his feet. The third made him vomit, but he remained standing. By the 10th, he was starting to understand the pattern. Mental attacks were like computer viruses. They looked for weaknesses to exploit. But Jake had spent years debugging code. I need a firewall, he muttered to himself. What did you say? Sarah asked. Jake's eyes lit up. That is what I am doing wrong. I am trying to fight back the wrong way. He closed his eyes and imagined his mind as a computer system. The crystal helped him visualize it. He built walls of logic, routines of calm subroutines that redirected negative thoughts. Try again, Jake said. Sarah attacked, and this time her eyes widened in shock. Her mental strike hit something unexpected. Not the chaotic human mind she expected, but an organized defense that redirected her attack back at her. She stumbled and nearly fell. How Sarah demanded. Jake grinned, still swaying, but victorious. Humans might have chaotic minds, but we also invented computer programming. I just debugged my brain. Word spread quickly through the training ground. The human had not just survived mental combat training, he had invented a new defense technique. Even Lord Kai came to observe as Jake taught the concept to younger elves. Your species' technology is more than machines, Lord Kai said thoughtfully. It is a way of thinking that we have ignored. Jake nodded. We had to learn to think like machines to build them, but that also taught us to build mental structures to organize chaos. It is not magic, but it works. The third month brought the biggest challenge yet. Team combat elves fought in perfect harmony, their crystals letting them share thoughts and coordinate without speaking. Jake had to learn to join that harmony, while still being fundamentally different. His team consisted of 5 elf warriors who had initially protested being paired with him. Now they stood in a circle, hands linked as they prepared for their final test. They would face Lord Kai's personal guard in simulated combat. Remember, Luna had told him before the match, you do not have to be like them. You have to be yourself and trust them to adapt. The battle was chaos. Lord Kai's guards moved like water, flowing around attacks and striking. From unexpected angles, Jake's team struggled to match them. The elves tried to include Jake in their mental link, but his human thoughts were too alien. Then Jake stopped trying to think like an elf. Instead, he thought like a mechanic. He saw the battlefield as a machine with parts that needed to work together. The elves were precision instruments, but every machine needed something to handle the unexpected variables. Jake broke from the formation, doing what no elf would do. He charged directly at the strongest guard. It was stupid and reckless and completely human. The guard was so surprised he hesitated for half a second. That half second was enough. Jake's team saw the opening through their link and struck. The guard went down. Jake rolled away from a counterattack and threw his training blade to a teammate who had lost theirs. Another human move that no elf would consider. The battle turned. Jake's unconventional tactics disrupted the guard's perfect coordination. They could not predict him because he did not fight like an elf, but his team learned to use his chaos as a weapon. When Jake did something impossible, they followed up with precision strikes. When the simulation ended, Jake's team had won. It was the first time a training team had ever defeated Lord Kai's guards. The guard's captain approached Jake after the match. "You fight without honor," he said. Jake shook his head. "I fight without your honor, but I have my own. I fight to protect, to survive, to win, so others do not have to fight. I fight like a human." And that, the captain said slowly, might be what we need. Lord Kai watched from above, and for the first time he truly smiled. The human was not trying to become an elf warrior. He was becoming something new. A human warrior who could work with elves. That evening, Luna found Jake sitting alone watching the dead star. It cast no light, but somehow its presence could be felt, a darkness against the dark. "My father wants to speak with you," Luna said. She looked proud, but also worried. Jake stood and followed her to Lord Kai's private chambers. The elf lord was studying star charts that showed the edge of known space. "The darkness has begun moving," Lord Kai said without preamble. "3 colonies have gone silent. Our scouts who go to investigate do not return." Jake studied the charts and saw the pattern. "It is testing our defenses," he said. "Looking for weak points." Lord Kai nodded. "You think like a warrior now, but you still think like a human. That combination might be what saves us." "What do you need me to do?" Jake asked. Lord Kai turned to face him. "I need you to return to human space. Convince your people that the threat is real, that we need to stand together." Jake felt his heart sink. After all this training, he was being sent away. Lord Kai saw his expression and almost smiled. "You are not being dismissed. You are being given the hardest mission, to build the bridge you spoke of." Luna stepped forward. "I will go with him. And the dragons. The humans need to see that we are willing to trust them as much as we ask them to trust us." Lord Kai nodded. "Then you have 1 month. Gather who you can. When the darkness truly attacks, we will need every ship, every warrior, every clever human idea, and every piece of elf magic." The human fleet commander's office was nothing like Lord Kai's chambers. It was practical and cramped with metal walls and recycled air. Admiral Kate Chen sat behind a desk covered in data pads and empty coffee cups. She looked at Jake like he had grown a second head. "You want me to believe that you have elf magic now," Chen said, "and that there is some mystical darkness coming to eat us all. And we should trust the elves who we have been at war with 3 times in the last century." Jake stood at attention even though he was no longer military. The crystal pulsed under his skin, but he kept it hidden for now. "I know how it sounds, Admiral. But you know my service record. Have I ever lied to you?" Chen leaned back in her chair. "You saved 30,000 civilians at Rigel Prime against direct orders. You threw away your career for strangers. So no, Morrison, you do not lie, but you might be delusional." Luna stepped forward from where she had been waiting by the door. "Admiral Chen, I am Luna, of the Elf Royal Line. I come with an official offer of alliance against a threat that will destroy us all if we face it." Alone, Chen's hand moved to her sidearm. "Stay where you are, Elf. Your kind are not welcome here." Jake moved between them. "Admiral, please just give us 5 minutes, let us show you." The 3 dragons flew in through the ventilation shaft. They had been waiting for Jake's signal. Cosmos arranged himself on Chen's desk, organizing her data pads. Nebula perched on a light fixture, and Star Whisper landed on Jake's shoulder. Chen's eyes went wide. "Dragons, real dragons, star singers, actually." Jake said, "They are thousands of years old, and they have seen the darkness before. They know what is coming." Star Whisper chirped, and suddenly, Chen could hear his voice in her mind. Not words, but images. She saw the darkness consuming entire systems. She saw fleets disappearing into void. She saw the future that awaited them. If they did not unite. Chen stumbled back, her face pale. What was there the truth? Jake said. He let the crystal's light shine through his skin, and Chen gasped. The elves gave me this because they believe humans and elves together can stop what is coming. But we need your help. Chen was quiet for a long moment. Then, she pressed a button on her desk. Get me the Joint Chiefs, she said. We have a situation. The meeting that followed was chaos. 12 human military leaders shouting over each other. Some called Jake a traitor. Others wanted to dissect him to understand. The crystal, a few actually listened to Luna's warnings. Then the emergency alarm started screaming. Admiral, we have lost contact with Outpost 7, Chen's aide reported. Then Outpost 6, then 5. It is like they are being erased. Jake felt the crystal. Burned cold in his chest, it is here. The darkness found us. On the main screen they watched as the border stations went dark one by one. Not destroyed, but gone like they had never existed. The darkness was not attacking. It was unmaking. How long until it reaches the colony worlds, Chen asked. At its current speed, 72 hours, the aide replied. Chen looked at Jake and Luna. What do we do? Jake closed his eyes and reached out with the crystal's power. He could feel Lord Kai's fleet massing on the elf side of the border. They were coming, but they would not arrive in time. We make a stand, Jake said. We hold it here until the elves arrive. With what Chen demanded. We do not have weapons that can fight nothing. Jake turned to Luna, who nodded. We teach you what the elves taught me. The darkness feeds on isolation, on division. When beings stand alone, it can unmake them easily. But when they stand together, something changes. Chen shook her head. That sounds like mystical nonsense. It is physics. Jake said, just different physics than you are used to. Think of it like quantum entanglement. When particles are connected, they affect each other instantly across any distance. The darkness cannot unmake something that is part of something else within. Hours the human fleet was mobilizing ships that had not flown together since the last elf war powered up their engines. Jake and Luna worked without rest, teaching human crews the basics of crystal resonance. Most humans could not touch the crystals directly, but they could use harmonic frequencies to approximate the effect. It was crude compared to elf magic, but it was something. The darkness arrived at the edge of human space like a wave of absolute nothing. Stars winked out. Planets ceased. Space itself seemed to fold in on itself. The human fleet met it with everything they had. Nuclear weapons did nothing. Antimatter bombs disappeared without exploding. Energy beams stopped existing the moment they touched the darkness. But then, Jake tried something different. He linked his crystal to the fleet's communication system and projected his thoughts to every human ship. Do not fight it separately. He broadcast, fight it together. Think of yourselves as one fleet, one entity, one life. It should not have worked. Humans were too individualistic, too chaotic, but they were also stubborn. When Jake's crystal touched their minds, they felt Luna's presence too, and the dragon's ancient wisdom. They felt what it was like to be truly connected, and darkness hit their combined will, and for the first time it slowed. It is working, Chen shouted, but we cannot hold it for long. They did not have to. Lord Kai's fleet arrived like silver lightning, 500 elf warships dropping out of faster than light travel in perfect formation. But instead of attacking, they merged their formation with the human fleet. For the first time in recorded history, human and elf ships flew as one force. Lord Kai's voice echoed across both fleets. Today, we are not two species. We are one people fighting for existence itself. Jake felt the moment when it truly happened. The human chaos and elf order did not cancel each other out. They amplified each other. Humans provided unpredictability and adaptation. Elves provided structure and power. Together, they were something the darkness had never faced before. The darkness recoiled. It had consumed thousands of civilizations that stood alone. But this hybrid force was new. Unprecedented. It pushed harder, trying to unmake the alliance. That was when Jake understood what they needed to do. Admiral Chen Lord Kai, he broadcast, "We need to do more than fight together. We need to become something new." "What do you mean?" Chen asked. Jake pulled Luna close and together. They reached out with the crystal's power. They touched every mind in both fleets, not forcing but inviting. "Let us show you what we can be together." One by one, the crews accepted the connection. Humans saw through elf eyes, understanding the universe, as flowing energy and living light elves saw through human eyes, understanding the fierce joy of short lives lived fully. The transformation rippled through both fleets. Ships began to change. Human technology and elf crystal harmonics merged in ways that should have been impossible. Weapons that fired solid light shields made of crystallized space engines that bent reality itself. The darkness met this new force, and for the first time in eons, it stopped advancing. It had no pattern for this, no way to unmake something that was constantly becoming. Jake felt himself at the center of it all, not leading but connecting. He was the bridge between species, the translator making unity possible. Through him, a human engineer shared ideas with, an elf artist, and created weapons of beautiful destruction. Through him, an elf philosopher and a human soldier found new ways to defend. "Push it back," Lord Kai commanded, and both fleets moved as one. The darkness had never retreated before, but it retreated. Now it pulled back from human space, leaving confused survivors on stations that had been partially unmade. They were changed, scarred, but alive, as the darkness fled toward the rim. Jake heard something that might have been communication. It was afraid. It had finally found something it could not unmake, because that something was always changing, always becoming more than it was. The combined fleet pursued the darkness to the edge of known space, and then stopped. They had won this battle, but they all knew it was not over. The darkness would return eventually, but when it did, they would be ready. Chen and Lord Kai met in person for the first time on Station Omega 7, where it had all began. They shook hands, human and elf, while their crews watched in amazement. "This alliance," Lord Kai said, "it cannot end when the threat is gone." Chen nodded. "We have learned too much to go back to the old ways." Jake stood with Luna, watching as humans and elves worked together to repair the damaged stations. The dragons flew between the workers, helping translate not just languages but entire ways of thinking. "You did it," Luna said. "You built the bridge, we built it," Jake corrected. "All of us together." Star Whisper landed on his shoulder and spoke in that ancient voice. "This is only the beginning, young bridge builder. The darkness was just the first test. There are greater challenges ahead." Jake nodded, but he was not afraid. Whatever came next, they would face it together, human and elf, and whatever new thing they were becoming. The crystal in his chest pulsed with warm light, and he felt the connections to thousands of beings, all different, but united. Luna took his hand and squeezed it gently. "Be brave, human," she said, echoing her words from months ago. That had started everything. Jake smiled and squeezed back. "Be brave, elf," he replied. Together they watched the stars and waited for tomorrow's challenges, knowing that they would never face them alone again. The bridge between worlds was built, and it would hold